Hey everybody, video 1, start you on soldering circuit board, okay? Check it out, here we go. Here's your board. Notice the parts are labeled R1 through 4, LEDs, okay? Capacitors, transistors, this is the switch, the push button, and this connection here for your battery. So always look at the labels, that'll help you get the parts in the right order, okay? So we always want to start with the lowest parts first when you're soldering a board. So for us, that's the 4 resistors. All right, so we're going to take our resistors, bend their legs as close as you can to the case of the resistor, and that will get them to sit nice and flat. All right. And we'll pop those in, slide them in from the top here. This is the top where the labels are. The label is called the silk screen. And when you make the boards, you can put whatever you want on there. So we're putting those in. And a good tip is to hold them flat with your finger, and then from this side, bend the legs out a little bit on an angle. That way they stay in place. See? Now they're held steady. It also gives you a little more room to get in there with the soldering iron. These are slightly larger, and so they're not going to fit as perfectly as the smaller ones. So, wiggle them in as best you can and get them to sit as flat as you can. You may need to squeeze them down with your fingernails. Just make sure they don't block any other parts. Lining up the gold bands so they match is a nice little extra you can do. Not necessary, but in the future, if you ever needed to look back, it makes understanding which parts are which, the values, a bit more straightforward. So there's our 4 LEDs, resistors. And what we're going to do is bend these legs. Okay. You don't stuff all the parts and solder them. Do a couple at a time. Okay? Lowest parts first, resistors. There we go. So now we're going to take our iron. And I'm not going to turn the fan on because it's a bit noisy. But we're going to clean the tip. And we're going to take our solder. Put a little fresh solder. Get a nice little bubble there. And we're going to touch the tip to the pad, so the little donut, and the leg at the same time. And then flow some solder right in there. It just takes a second or two. There's 1. 2. 3. Don't need a lot of solder here. 4. And when you got all those parts locked in place on one side, it's a good time to look and see that they're all sitting flat. If they're not flat, now's the time to heat up the solder and push the part flat. Now's the time to get them perfect. Okay? They don't necessarily have to be perfectly flat, but it is a nice bit of craftsmanship. All right, so I got those 4 soldered. So now I'll take some little clippers and I'll nip those little ends off so they get out of our way, as close to the board as you can. There we go. And I'm going to flip the board around. I'll do the other 4 side. Clean the tip. Apply a little fresh solder. Okay, pin it down on the leg and the pad. Leg and the pad. All right, you want the iron to heat up both. Leg and pad. And leg and pad, just a little bit. Okay, that's done. Looks great. The joints should be shiny. I know it's hard to tell in the screen here. They're shiny and clean. Clip, 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 clip. And now you're ready to move on to the next part. So for this, I might do the transistors and the LEDs. Capacitors stick up a little higher. If you made a cover for your board, you might want to fold the capacitor's legs so that way they can sit flat. So an example, if you take your capacitor here and fold the legs as tight to the case as you can, like that, now that will sit in the holes and it will be flat to the board, as flat as you can get it. So if you need clearance on the top, you can fold those down. You can do the same thing with the transistor. Bend those legs close to the case of the transistor and put them in. Okay? One more note for you all is to be aware of the markings on the board for the capacitors. Okay, that white stripe area is the negative. Okay, negative, just like the white stripe on the actual capacitor itself. The transistors have a flat side on the board and a rounded side, just like your transistors have a flat face and a rounded face. The button is not polarized, fits in either way, and the LEDs have a flat edge here and here. Remember, the flat side of the LED is negative, so longer legs go on the inside. All right? So have fun building this up. Take your time. And when all the parts are in, then you can solder your wire for your battery. Red is positive. It says 9V positive. The black would be negative. I'm going to solder my wire in. I'm going to stick the wire in from the bottom, flip it, and solder it on the top. All right? Have fun. If you want me to check it before you solder it, that's great. Make sure everything's good. All right, thank you.